Hello, everybody. Welcome to That Moment Heart to Heart Talk with Victoria. This is now episode 9, and I am here with Slash Coleman. Slash, I'm so excited to have you on. And before I have you introduce yourself, one of my favorite people, before I have you introduce yourself, I just want to share with everyone That Moment Heart to Heart Talk with Victoria is a show about the thriving that can happen after a traumatic event or something that we struggle with can really bring about thriving and benefits for us. So I talk to inspiring people like Slash, looking at what is it that they're doing in the world, how are they contributing, and what was that moment or those moments that contributed to their struggle that then led them to their successes, their growth, their thriving. So here today, I'm here with Slash. And Slash, I know you because I kind of stalked you a little bit on LinkedIn months ago.
Sure.
I thought you were absolutely incredible.
Thanks.
And you are a laughter yoga ambassador. And I'm just going to let you share with everyone how amazing you are. Who are you? What do you do in the world?
Well, I'm a U.S. laughter yoga ambassador. They call us laughter ambassadors, not laughter yoga ambassadors.
Ah,
And had a previous life as a professional storyteller. I suppose that we are all storytellers, and a laughter yoga teacher, certified through Laughter International and Laughter Yoga University.
amazing. And so not typical.
Yeah, there's not a lot of us out there doing this sort of work with unconditional laughter. Um, it's fairly new kind of mindfulness. It's a fairly new thing that popped up on the mindfulness scene in 1995, created by a medical doctor in India. And his book just came out last year. And so it's still really under the radar. If you think about regular yoga, there's tons of books out there. There's like a yoga studio on every corner of every block, even where I live, which is down south. And but laughter yoga, it's still this kind of outlier kind of thing, still kind of weird, wacky, and kind of misunderstood, if people even know about it at all. Like me, I thought that laughter yoga, that must involve telling jokes and doing yoga poses, but it doesn't
Doesn't
involve any poses and no jokes at all. So
Okay, so let's back up a little bit then.
sure.
So I know a little bit about it because I had the privilege of interviewing you for another show that we did. But tell us a little bit about what laughter yoga is, and maybe a little bit about the science behind it. What does it do for us, and why is it so? I mean, I'm throwing a lot of questions at you, but what comes up for me is, why is it so underutilized, not so known about, and why is it becoming more prominent now?
Yeah. So in 1995, Dr. Madan Kataria, I went and hung out with him in India at Laughter Yoga University a couple years ago, and I think personally, from what I gathered from his story, he was looking for a way to live a less stressful life, but also hand in hand, he was looking for a way for his patients to live a less stressful life. And he saw how stress was affecting their bodies and their mental health. And he found that if he could get them to laugh for longer periods of time, he was getting better results with that than he was with medicine. But the key was, how could he get his patients to laugh for 10 minutes or more? And it was just kind of seemed impossible. So he walked to a park in March of 1995 with his wife and 3 friends, and they formed what was called the world's first joke club. They told jokes. Between the 4 of them, they perhaps knew 3 jokes. No one laughed at the jokes. I think they laughed more because they didn't know any jokes, and what they were doing wasn't funny. They thought that if they could get more people to join, they could have more jokes and there'd be more to laugh about. 10 people joined the next day. Still, it didn't generate the kind of laughter. Some people smiled. They might have laughed like we do when we watch a comedian or even something funny on TV for maybe a few seconds. And it still wasn't that type of laughter. By the end of the week, 50 people joined him in that park, and they started to tell jokes. And as it is with jokes, a lot of them became dirty. They turned mean. And a lot of people were like, we don't want any parts of this. We don't know what you're doing in terms of trying to generate laughter for your patients, but you're on your own here. And that's when that night, I guess, he had what a lot of people call a breakthrough, or some kind of awakening. He went back into his mind and thought about what it was like when he was an amateur thespian taking theater classes. And he remembered that when he was on stage and he acted angry, his body couldn't tell the difference between real anger and fake anger. And so when he acted angry, his face turned red, his heart beat faster, and he wondered if it would be the same with laughter. So he came up with one laughter exercise that night. An idea was that born then that he would create this laughter exercise to push unconditional laughter. That is laughter not based on jokes, comedy, or humor, but just the desire to laugh. And so he brought it to the park the next day. A few people showed up. He did this exercise again and again, and he found that he was able to generate over 10 minutes of laughter each time he did the exercise. So at the flash forward at the end of a couple of weeks, at the end of the month, 1,000 people joined him at the end of the month.
What?
Flash forward 5 years, 500,000 people joined him in that park in Mumbai. And by then, 5 years later, he had about 12 to 20 exercises that were kind of loosely based on those theatrical exercises, but it was really meant to produce this unconditional laughter. That's when he put his medical practice in the backseat. He's still a doctor, and he opened up Laughter Yoga University to teach people how to embrace this unconditional laughter that has all kinds of amazing health benefits.
Incredible. So when you say unconditional laughter, can you define that a little bit more? Is it that you don't necessarily have to find something funny, but is it that you can create the sensation in your body as if you did find something funny? Or
Sure. So to define unconditional laughter, let me first combine conditional laughter. So conditional laughter is based on comedy, jokes, and humor. So traditionally, and I did in my past as a storyteller and entertainer, I would either memorize a joke or create a joke. And a joke is based on a setup and a punchline. So I might say to you, this is one of my favorite dad jokes. What's brown and sticky? And you say, if you know the answer, don't tell me. You just say, well, I don't know.
I mean, poop?
Close. A stick. It's so dumb. It's obvious, right? And so, yeah, it's brown and sticky, a stick. So if you've heard that before, you don't laugh. If you've never heard it before and you're a little kid, you think it's the most hilarious thing and you laugh like crazy. If you've heard it 3 or 4 times, you definitely don't laugh. And so those conditions are very precarious. And so what we find with conditional laughter is if we wait for someone to come into our lives to tell us a joke that we may or may not find funny, we may be waiting a long time to laugh, especially now that we're self-isolating due to COVID. When we tend to watch funny things on TV, our favorite comedians, our favorite movies, comedies on TV, we may say, wow, I went back and watched one of my favorite comedians, Zach Galifianakis, live at the Purple Onion, the Green Onion in San Francisco. I was like, this is so hilarious. I went back and watched it just knowing what I know about laughter now. And I smiled a lot, and I may have laughed out loud a couple times to a few seconds, but it wasn't enough to give me those health benefits. And to really get those health benefits, we're talking like 10 minutes of laughter. And what does 10 minutes of laughter mean? 10 minutes, it takes about 10 minutes to wash the dishes, to make your bed. Think about laughing during that whole time. It's a good chunk of time of laughter. That's where we get the health benefits with laughter. And so unconditional laughter is not based on comedy or jokes and humor. It's a choice to laugh in any moment. And so, for instance, at the Jedi level of unconditional laughter, we choose to laugh when we're making a cup of tea. We're pouring a cup of tea and we're laughing the whole time without jokes, comedy, or humor. And what it is, it becomes this physical action. The diaphragms are moving up and down. The ribs are moving out and to the side. Oxygen is moving into the body. And we're tricking the body. What happens usually with the unconditional laughter is it soon turns, because of the laughter contagion, which is really cool, into real and genuine laughter. And that's what the doctor found too. You introduce this laughter exercise to introduce fake laughter. And even though in laughter yoga, about 30% of it is fake, 70% of it, even when we do it online, becomes real and genuine laughter.
I love that. I was just at a Tony Robbins event recently where one of the people that was sort of managing our virtual room, led us through a exercise that you actually did with us on the last show I interviewed you with, and it was wonderful to feel almost like there was just a sense of relief, and also doing it in a group. It became, like you said, that laughter contagion factor. It became sort of funny and but also there was a sense of support and camaraderie in the group. So I can imagine, people really enjoy doing this within a group. Now, what happens when someone is, you're introducing someone to this and they're having a really hard time, like people that have a hard time laughing, or, they take themselves very, very seriously. Do you find that people are very resistant to it, or is it something that they take to quite easily once they try?
So I think every kind of medium likes to say that it's the answer. Like, if you do this, you're going to love it. And like, yoga is for like traditional yoga. Do yoga and do meditation. It'll change your life. But some people have a really hard time meditating. They just can't sit. They've tried it again and again. Some people hate poses. They just like don't like to do yoga poses. It's not for them. So I think we talk about entry points. There's some kind of mindfulness for each person out there. I found through the last few years of my studies with laughter yoga, and especially when I was doing the experiment that I did during the first year that I tried this, the thing is that only about 1 in 20 people are really drawn to do it. In that time period, I've set up programs with the U.S. Department of Defense and at the Childhood Cancer Foundation and at a substance abuse treatment center, where I continue to do studies on unconditional laughter and relapse and substance abuse and addiction and recovery. Wow. And these are people, especially when I work with veterans or kids with cancer, and with the kids with cancer and even with the veterans, there's different groups for the veterans, the family, and then the doctors and the support system for them. So each of those are always separate out. Sometimes we do groups together, but these are people that typically don't feel like laughing. These are people that I'm not saying all of them, but they may have not felt like living life the last few weeks. They're just struggling to stay alive. They definitely don't feel like laughing. The magic of the laughter contagion is when it travels into the air. We don't know how or why it works. Something magical begins to happen. And so even when people don't feel like laughing and maybe even refuse to laugh based on where they're at. And the interesting thing is that when we were running our weekly classes during that year-long experiment that I did, we would have people that would come in who had suffered some kind of death in the family. This isn't like, well, someone died last year. This is like, someone died a couple of days ago, and I don't know why I've been drawn to come into this, but I have. And this is typically where you wouldn't embrace humor or laughter. Even if you're in a room with people laughing, it's of great benefit. We think about the science of it, the mirror neurons that are, we have the neurons in our body want to mirror what's going around us. So if we see someone smile, something in us tells us to smile too. If someone gets angry at us, we want to put on the boxing gloves to get angry back at them. And so even being in a room, it begins to change our gene expression and how we begin to feel inside. So they don't have to laugh. I'll say that, just as I'm honest about only 1 in 20 people are drawn to ever come back, even those 19 people that don't come back, they tend to laugh in the session. The reason they don't come back, it's way out of their comfort zone. It's just too uncomfortable to laugh in front of strangers, which is part of the magic which happens. When we laugh in front of strangers, we embrace this sort of vulnerability that Dr. Brene Brown talks about, and it forms a bond and a connection. For a lot of people, especially when we talk about recovery and alcohol and drug abuse, there tends to be an issue with narcissistic personality disorder. And so when you have a narcissistic kind of personality, you tend not to want to share. It becomes really uncomfortable on a different level when you laugh with strangers. It's all about me. It's not about me sharing this laughter with you.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. I love that you went there and shared about, it's not, anybody being resistant, but there are groups of people that may be more resistant to it. And so that's true. Is it something that you suggest implementing at a certain point in time? Let's say someone's grieving or someone is dealing with a really difficult prognosis, for something that they have, or, they have just gone through something really difficult. Is it something that you think can be implemented right away? Or is there a period of time where you want to give that person space to maybe process some of those feelings? Or is it something that just anybody can do at any time?
Yeah. So when I kind of came to, I guess my career as a storyteller kind of blossomed when my best friend died. And I wrote a story about him and took it on stage. It became my full-time job for about 9 years. The show ran off Broadway. I raised over like $500,000 and just gave all the money away. And I toured all around the world telling the story about kind of how I processed his death as an artist. And a lot of people at first said, "You have no right to laugh about your friend's death. Like, what are you doing?" But his family was like, "Wow, we feel like you're bringing our son back to life every time you tell this story on stage." And through the course of 9 years, I performed it over 1,500 times. I thought, so that was my first experience in probably dealing with people who were coming in experiencing some form of grief. And that the day that it ran off Broadway was when the Virginia Tech shootings happened. And in my mind, as an artist, not knowing a lot of the science behind it, I was like, I want to take my show there. They really need to laugh, and they need to. But I realized that show wasn't I wasn't meant to be on the front lines with that show. If you had suffered some kind of death, maybe 2 or 3 years later, you would sit in a theater and watch my show and get some benefit from it. Laughter yoga is very different. And like I said, we have people coming in all the time who have experienced a great deal of grief right away with the laughter. And this is when I talk about the dangerous science of laughter, it's dangerous because it gives us a way to interact with negative people and negative situations. We tend to not have that. And so it makes us smarter. To live smarter is a little bit dangerous because it's different than what a lot of people know and what we know. And so this idea of traditional kind of therapeutic ways of dealing with anger or grief is, the kind of cycle of grief of you like push it down or you express it, or you're going to do some kind of primal thing. And even with anger, it's the same way. With laughter, it's really cool because you're in a group and you're getting supported and it's moving through you. So it's not like this anger therapy. I'm talking about anger, and I can compare it to grief too, where you're kind of suppressing it or you're just laughing about it and forgetting about the anger. When we choose to interact with others who are angry rather than get angry back, we're not suppressing it. We're still expressing it in a very different way. And so it's the same with grief. We still get the full expression of grief as we laugh. And it's amazing. There's no reason on paper why it should work. I think if we look at the science, it works, but it's kind of cool in that way.
It is super, super cool in that way. I think about 2 points. One, I can't imagine laughing with someone who's angry with me. I have to try that and see how that works. Maybe I can get them to laugh with me. But, it makes sense to me just neurologically, Slash, because I know that play and laughter definitely unhook our amygdala from digging its heels in, and that opens up the space in our brain to think and play and be creative. So I can imagine that that's what's happening in our brains. Do you know any of that? Do you know if there's any science that backs up laughter yoga?
Sure. And let me just say also that if you laugh with someone while they're angry, they're going to get angrier and you could get hurt. So like, I don't recommend that. I'm saying that it gives you a choice of like when you feel angry to deal with it a little bit differently. And so I find myself in situations where I would become frustrated or angry that I find myself just laughing instead of that. And it's really interesting to have that switch now, because before it was like, okay, get angry or suppress it, or I'll just deal with it later. Now it's like to laugh about it. It really changes it. So yeah, don't laugh at people that are angry at you.
Thank you for that.
Yeah. And so your question was the science that backs up a lot of, yeah. So when people talk about the science behind laughter yoga, they tend to talk about this flood of chemicals that flood the body. With a lot of people that tend to come to my sessions, at least, who have suffered from fibromyalgia or chronic pain, we know that endorphins are released after the 10-minute mark. And now in endorphins, we know you get that from exercise. Endorphins are 10 times more powerful than morphine. And so a lot of people who come in pain will say that they, after 10 minutes, they'll get about 6 hours of relief from their pain. But if they do a full hour, they're getting like 24 to 72 hours of kind of pain-free living, which is where the doctor began to look at like what's actually going on in the body.
incredible.
Yeah. So that's just one chemical. There's a whole flood of chemicals that go through the body, including, dopamine, and serotonin, and, a lot of these. So when we think about serotonin, it's like if you have someone that is kind of your protector or mentor, and they're like, wow, you are really awesome. You did a great job. We tend to feel something in our body. That's what you get from the laughter yoga. It's like for an hour, you get this rush of chemicals where people are going like, you're a really good person. You did a really great job. And you're not doing these cheesy affirmations where you're looking in the mirror and going like, I love myself unconditionally. And that's somehow working on a gene level. But when you're doing it in the presence of others and they're giving it to you and you're giving it back, something happens when we're in service to others.
Magic. As you're sharing, this is such a contribution to other people, and I know that you have a pretty phenomenal just backstory as to how you got to where you are today. And I would love for you to share, if that's okay.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah. So I think every story actually comes with a pre-story, and mine definitely comes with a pre-story because by the time the main story of which is I usually begin, it's usually how I begin the story about laughter. There's usually a decision that the hero comes upon this point in the story. We're all the heroes of our own story, where he has to make a decision where he goes left or right. And so my story really began when I was a kid, and I guess you could say I was always looking for the right conditions to create laughter. And it was important for me because both my parents suffered from depression, and one set of grandparents did as well. From my mom's side, I come from both my grandparents and my mom, Holocaust survivors, and on my dad's side, suffering from addiction. And so I really found a need to want to change the energy in the room when I felt it get heavy or kind of depressing. Not someone who suffered from myself. I didn't understand why a room could become so heavy so often. And so I wasn't very good at jokes, and I've never been good at jokes because I'm okay with dad jokes because I'm not good at memorizing things. And so I'd usually try to memorize it and mess up the punchline or something and no one would laugh. So, but I was good at physical comedy. I loved like pouring milk on my head at the dinner table or stuffing beans in my nose and anything to get a laugh. And I found that it worked really effectively if I could do those things, and suddenly the energy in the room would change. And so no one was surprised in my family when I began to make my living telling funny stories on stage. But I do have to say, when I took that route, that it worked really hard for every joke I created. Sometimes I'd work 4 hours, 4 days, 4 months, sometimes 4 years before I perfected a joke, memorized it. As I said, I wasn't good at memorizing things, and then perfected it. And so that joke might get a laugh once and never get a laugh again, or might never get a laugh, even after 4 years of work. And so to me, what makes things funny with conditional laughter, and I became as an expert as much as I could with conditional laughter, telling those jokes on stage. It's not an exact science. And so I was on my book tour in 2015 when my right lung mysteriously collapsed, and I canceled my tour, and I had 3 surgeries on my right lung. I went in the hospital, and when I was leaving, the surgeon said that laughter would help my lung heal. And that's when I Googled laughter in the area where I live, which is in Richmond, Virginia, and found laughter yoga. And actually, for some reason, unconditional laughter doesn't translate very well to video. And so the videos actually scared me. It still doesn't translate well. When we watch videos of people laughing in laughter yoga, they kind of seem crazy. And I just think that's the medium. It doesn't feel that way when you're in the room, but it does when you're watching on video. I reluctantly went to my first session, and it took about a year for me to make that first Google query, because I just got the television remote and got a bag of chips and kind of parked myself in front of this in this self-isolated state for a year, where I felt like I had the flu for a year. I didn't want to be around people. My self-confidence went down. I ate a lot. My self-esteem kind of plummeted. And so by the time I Googled laughter yoga, it didn't matter how weird it seemed. I was going to try it no matter what. And I was surprised when I tried that first session. One, how unisolated I felt within the first 10 minutes of laughing with these strangers. And I didn't expect to feel that. Even when the leader said, we're going to laugh for no reason at all, I just didn't I was like, there's no way this is going to work for me. Like, how am I going to laugh on command? But I did that. All that isolation that I felt during the year vanished. And I had tried yoga. I tried the gym, and I never really met anybody in there. And I felt like I left that session with 12 really good friends.
Incredible. So I want to stop for a moment
Yeah.
and just go back. You said that your lung collapsed and a doctor said that laughter yoga might be helpful.
Sure. Yeah.
And what did you think at that moment? I mean, I can only imagine through you telling me, a lung collapsing and then, thinking I only have half
Yeah. Right.
capacity I had before. And then when I think about laughter, I think about a lot of breathing and a lot of, tax on my lungs. And so what were your thoughts at that time when the doctor suggested that?
Well, he actually said, he didn't say laughter yoga. He said coughing, laughing, and sneezing would help my lung heal, and to do those three things as much as I could. And in front of the TV with my bag of chips, I lived with the spirometer, which is this thing you breathe in and out of and you're supposed to raise this thing. You go, and this like level raises, and you're supposed to, you do it long enough, and your lung, you do it hot. The meter raises. It means your lungs getting healthy. I hated to watch comedies during that point, during that year, because if I laughed, it actually hurt because they had stitched up part of my lung inside. So it actually hurt. I hated to sneeze. I would do anything not to sneeze. And I hated to cough because it actually hurt. And so these three things that, to reach a point in my life where it hurt to laugh, that's on a metaphorical level or symbolic level, that's like really telling. What had I done with my life? How did I get here where it hurt me to laugh and where I didn't want to laugh anymore? But that's where I was. And so when he said that, I think if I hadn't told that pre-story, I was really in a place where I wanted to make some changes in my life. I knew that telling these jokes, in a sense, like these jokes that didn't make me laugh, they might have sometimes made other people laugh, but that wasn't going to help me heal to write more jokes and perform them. So I was really looking for a way to embrace what the doctor said with laughter. And I guess I took it to an extreme.
Thank you for taking it to an extreme.
Yeah.
Incredible. And I love what you said about you left with 12 new friends, because we know that just having social support and people around us is hugely healing. Say a little bit more about your journey. So you went to that first session, and then what came out of that?
Yeah. Well, not only within the first 10 minutes did I feel a great bond to what I thought were a bunch of weird people. When I looked around, I was like, all were regulars. I was like, you guys do this? Like, I'm not even going to even make it out here. I thought I'd be the 1 in 20. I would do it once and like never come again. But I also felt within the first 10 minutes, oxygen being pushed into parts of my body and my lung in ways that had never been pushed to the depth before. And so when we're sitting in a computer, we're sitting right now, if you want to think about, there's 2 fingers of oxygen going in and out of like probably our top of our lung. We breathe in, 2 goes in, we breathe out, 2 goes out. And then with laughter yoga, 5's going in and 5's going out. So it's this deep inhalation based on this deep exhalation. And so I was hooked. I felt, what's that?
Can we do it? Can we do it for people who are watching?
Sure.
Can you lead me through something? I want to feel it.
Yeah. So let's start with even if we're going to do an exercise, I like to start with a warm up. So we'll start with a warm up first. So the first warm up, we're going to watch me first, then I'll count you through. So we grab this imaginary dumbbell here. We grab it. We breathe in through our nose. As we breathe in, it's only through our nose, and then we hold the breath. And then we laugh out, and it can be a totally fake laugh like this, ha, 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 ha. So we're lifting this dumbbell back and forth as we breathe. This is just a warm up. It's not one of the exercises. So let's just try that really quick. So grab that dumbbell, and on the count of 3, we'll lift it up, breathe in through the nose, and then we'll hold it, and I'll guide you to laugh it out. So 1, 2, 3, breathe in, lift that dumbbell, hold it, and laugh it out. Shake out your hands. Good. Let's do that one more time. Grab that dumbbell. Good. 1, 2, 3, breathe in. Lift the dumbbell. Hold it. Laugh it out. Good. So when we do these warm-ups, and I'll guide you in a real quick exercise, we're kind of flooding the body with oxygen. We could, and some people do breathing exercises for an hour. I don't know if I could make it past a few of those. It would just be really boring. We're using these exercises to trick the brain to think that we're doing something exciting while we're laughing and it's bringing the oxygen. So it's kind of like taking shots of oxygen for an hour. So we'll just do a real simple exercise based on unconditional laughter. And this one's just called cell phone laughter. So we're going to grab an imaginary cell phone. Here it is right here. We'll dial an imaginary number and then wait for me. We'll count to 3. We'll put it up to your ear. For 10 to 15 seconds, we're going to laugh. Just create laughter, cause ourselves a laugh for no reason at all without using jokes, comedy, or humor. So grab that cell phone, put it up to your, dial it, put it up to your ear. Now, when I count to 3, no one's going to answer, but we're going to laugh anyway. So 1, 2, 3, go for it. Perfect. Nice job. So the exercises, they're within an hour, you may experience. Yeah. So, and I'm laughing because I'm looking at you and embracing this childlike playfulness. And so during an hour session, we may do probably 20 of those exercises, 10 to 15 second exercise. And when you piece it all together, you're getting like 10 minutes of like deep hearty laughter, which is where the benefits come from.
Got it. Incredible. And then, as I was laughing, we weren't laughing at anything, but then I was watching you and, watching me, and it just became funny, but not funny in a conditional way. Just, it was okay to do that together.
Yeah.
It was interesting. Very, very interesting.
Right.
And I do feel.
And can I just say one thing? That's a key point in there as I've switched over to virtual sessions. So when COVID hit, I was offering probably 4 to 5 a week, and I've backed down to like 1 a month because I really want to. Laughter yoga is more just about putting a camera on the session and thinking that it's going to work great. And so this is why during the online sessions, I really require people to show themselves, that you can't hide behind like the screen icon and check your email and all that, because we really need to see you for this to work. So it's an important part, is this contact that's happening right now.
Mm-hmm. Have you found that people have been pretty open to that during Zooms?
Yeah, they're pretty resistant to it because they're really used to what's out there. Like I have my choice of 20,000 webinars each day, or to join 20,000 more Zoom meetings, and no one's asking me to do that. Like I don't have to. So what's the big deal for this? Like why is it any different? But it's pretty essential. It
is. Incredible. So and can you share a little bit more about when your lung collapsed and you went through that? I can imagine that you weren't thinking that was going to happen. You weren't predisposed to that.
Right. It happened randomly. Yeah.
And so I'm wondering about your journey. You were talking about that year and struggling through that. What was the journey that you went through when you first made meaning about what all of this meant, this happening to you, and then the progression of dealing with it through your struggle? Where did you end up in terms of your meaning making around what happened?
Well, my life and my outlook about life really changed at that point. Being raised by 8 artists, and also with a lot of addiction and a lot of violence in the family, you really learn to become an adult like really early on, and you develop this heightened sense of intuition around what may be causing things in the world and how you can prevent those things. How can I keep myself safe? And so half of that is from just being an artist. And I had a plethora of artist studios that I grew up in, from my grandparents to my dad's artist studio, of always making creative and intuitive decisions. And then the other half came from needing to keep myself safe. And so when my lung collapsed, like I began to think that it was some kind of metaphorical reason of the way I've been living my life. Like what have I been doing to like cause this to happen for myself? And I've always been that way. And so for me, I felt like right when it collapsed, I didn't go to the doctor right away. I continued on my tour. I thought I had pulled a muscle in my back and developed a cold because my lung was making noise as I continued on my tour. But the thing is that as I continued on the tour and my health began to decline, I felt like if I said enough affirmations, like it would make it better. And what I realized after the fact, because I wasn't big on Western medicine at that point, I knew my affirmations could help me. I just did more yoga. I sought out alternative medicine to help me. I was actually seeking a chiropractor because I thought my rib was out. And if I had gone to a chiropractor, I probably would have died on his table if he would have popped me in, like my lung was collapsed.
Wow.
And so, what I saw with that way of living my life was that if I'm driving a car and the gas tank is empty, sometimes writing the words "full tank" on a Post-it note and putting it over the gas gauge that's the equivalent of doing an affirmation sometimes. And so it's not changing what's underneath of it. It's just like kind of putting a Band-Aid on it. And I'd been living my life a lot around like putting Band-Aids on things. And so after I lived my life, it began to help me embrace like life more fully. Now, if something's up, I'll go to the doctor right away. I still enjoy embracing alternative medicine, things like that. But I was living a very limited life in how I approached the world and how I was skeptical of things. And I saw that there's a time for intuition, but there's also a time for science and also like practical decision making too. So.
Got it. Got it. And I love what you said about affirmations, because we have sometimes this idea that, just saying affirmations is going to create the difference. But placing action alongside the, affirmations, really getting into your body about how it is that you want to create how you feel versus just saying it.
Yeah.
And so, is there a part of laughter yoga that also includes affirmations and words of, words associated with how you want to feel or what it is that you want to do? Or is that not part of laughter yoga?
Well, that's the cool thing for me is that, by laughter yoga, there's the sessions that I do and run have kind of shaped in terms of like where I've taken laughter yoga into, the recovery field and working with veterans. And then there's the laughter yoga that you get certified in, like, so it's all over the map in terms of who you get. Most times you're just having a fun time with someone who's leading you in this unconditional laughter for an hour. But even in my sessions, which tend to be a little bit different from others, it's not really concentrating on this therapeutic stuff. Like we don't really care like who died or like when they died or all that. Just come and laugh, but you're going to get this spiritual kind of undertone because that's just who I am. Like usually at the end of a session, I'll sing one of the songs that my grandfather used to sing to us in Yiddish. And so you're getting this kind of spiritual kind of healing that I bring to it. But I don't think every laughter leader kind of brings that to the table. It just depends on who you get. So it's hard for me to say, yeah, in general laughter yoga, but in general laughter yoga, it's about the unconditional laughter and it's not about digging into like where it came from. Because by the end, we get people in our sessions that are in pain, like lots of pain for whatever reason, whether it's physical pain or mental pain, broken hearts, broken lives. And by the end, they haven't talked about what went on. We don't even have to know about that. Eventually, if they come to sessions long enough, some of their stories come out. But all they know at the end is that this flood of oxygen has made them feel better and has made the pain go away. So yeah, it's kind of this mindfulness that's really cool because even I think with traditional meditation, which I do daily, where you sit and just stare at a wall in lotus until your legs fall asleep, you kind of have to just deal with yourself and like, deal with your feelings and where things have come from. And like, it can be pretty scary. With laughter yoga, there's such a flood of oxygen that you don't even remember what kind of happened or what didn't happen. Like you don't have to recall anything. So it's really beautiful in that way. And it can be really effective for people who find like traditional meditation or traditional mindfulness stuff really hard.
Mm-hmm. I love it. And I know that you have a kiddo and you're married. And how do you implement this into your life every day? Is it something that you do? And if so, what does that look like?
Well, after I went to my first laughter yoga session, I would eventually become certified and go to India and work with a doctor. And then I started my own laughter experiment for a year where I was doing weekly sessions. weekly free sessions to offer laughter yoga in the community. And I met my wife in those sessions, and she came to pretty much all those weekly sessions, not all of them, but a lot of them. And so it was really cool because even afterwards, when I was doing the sessions, she was pregnant. And then, so our baby was born like in utero with all this weekly laughter. Right. And so like, she kind of came out, I have a daughter. She kind of came out of the womb like laughing. She laughs so much. And so in my sessions, at least, this isn't a lot of laughter leaders, but like I always welcome kids in there from, we would have participants in there from birth to age 80. But I always love when the kids were in there because they could genuinely laugh without really needing a reason. And so she's kind of become my laughter teacher in that way. She's only like 6 months old, but already she laughs and smiles so much. I don't know if all babies do that. Maybe they do. I don't have a lot of experience with it, but she's definitely become my guru in some way.
Oh, I love that so much. I love that.
Yeah.
And tell us, how can people get into this? Is this something that they need to do as a practitioner? Is it something that they can just look up and, find something online? What would you recommend?
Yeah, I would recommend that you start with the doctor's website, which is just laughteryoga.org. Or Laughter Yoga International, that you can
put that in the chat for everyone.
Yeah. So when the downturn happened, a lot of laughter leaders struggled with how to make laughter yoga work on the virtual front. And so all around the world now, there's like free laughter yoga sessions happening virtually 10 times a day, every day. That wasn't the case before COVID. There was nothing online, but still there wasn't a lot going on daily. And so the doctor is even offering free sessions online, which is like you can go right to the source. But other than that, there's people all over the world offering these free sessions on Zoom as well. So that's a great starting point right there. To me, when the pivot happened, it seemed more important to teach people how to do this alone. And so as far as I know, I'm the only one doing this. I'm about to launch it in about another month to offer laughter yoga meditation. So with laughter yoga sessions, you need a group of people to do that. But how do we do it when we're alone? And so I created this 10-minute kind of series of 10 different laughter exercises and breathing techniques that you can do in the morning for 10 minutes. And then you get that boost and all the chemicals, and then you go on about your day. And this was something that the doctor showed me when I was in India, and kind of I've taken it further and developed it. So I'll be launching that through a website called laughteryogameditation.com.
I love that. And is that part of ilaughforlife.com, or is that separate?
That's separate. ilaughforlife.com is my website where I began to offer virtual sessions because I really wanted to begin to work with, all these people in meetings every day, all over the world in businesses. And when you think about underserved populations where it's like, okay, well, like the recovery community, well, the veteran community, kids with cancer, it's pretty much everybody now, especially if you're struggling to stay connected and you're in a business and you don't want what the typical team building sessions offer, which is like it kind of people ran away from it a year ago and they're running away from it now that it's virtually, but we know that laughter yoga works well online. And so that's built to work with organizations, whether it's a small business or a Fortune 500 company. I've been working with organizations and businesses a couple times a week since the downturn. And it's really been helping kind of teams and companies work more effectively together.
I love that. I was just going to ask, do you find that the morale and also just a breakdown in tensions happens when you implement those sessions? Or what do you find are some of the takeaways for people that are in corporate? I'm mostly interested.
Yeah. So when we think about the special day in school where it was like, or a special day at work where they're like, okay, you can wear jeans today. And like everyone shows up in jeans. My wife's a librarian. On Fridays, they get to wear jeans. And like, it just feels a little special. Or like, it's a snow day at school and like, there's this magic there. Or we're meeting for our holiday event at work, and for some that brings apprehension, but for others it's like, wow, this is like so different from regular work where everyone's dressed in a Santa hat and like we just get to let our guard down. That's what laughter yoga is like when you introduce it to a team in a business. It's just so different. People have no experience and no context in which to like compare this to that. that it so takes people to the edge of their comfort zone that it becomes magic. And so that's sort of what it feels like when you introduce it to a business. This may be different in 10 years when everybody's like laughter yoga out, but like, I don't think that will happen just because there's not enough of us doing it out there.
Agreed. I am definitely going to think about taking it on and doing it more in my own sessions. I think about so many of the people that I work with. You mentioned fibromyalgia, and we're talking about all of these conditions physically that people are dealing with due to stress. And how important this is because there's a model for it. It's not, we can reach out to you, we can reach out to others. So I think this is wonderful. Before I let you go,
sure.
I have two more questions. One is, what is something that you want people to really take away from this conversation? It could be about laughter yoga, or it could be about just growth through struggle. What's something that you would really like for people to take away from this?
If I could have anyone take away anything, because I'm a big kind of advocate and ambassador for laughter yoga, it is just sometime within the next 24 hours, Google laughter yoga on YouTube and watch what goes on. And then you can kind of take it from there, because at least you have a context and experience of what goes on during a session at a different level. Once you see that people can laugh unconditionally, take one task that takes place during the day, whether it's like when you wash the dishes, or whether you get in your car and you start your car, just something very short. And for the next 7 days, laugh unconditionally during that time. So you're pouring your tea, that's probably like 5 seconds. Just laugh during those 5 seconds. If you pour tea 3 times a day, laugh during those 5 seconds. I think it speaks for itself. Like, if you experience it and you do it on a regular basis, it begins to affect the body in a really cool way.
I love that. Thank you.
Yeah,
and
you're welcome.
What's the best way that people can find you, Slash?
So since I have a newborn at home, I've been laying low on social media. LinkedIn is probably the best way, Slash Coleman on LinkedIn. And then on my website, ilaughforlife.com, they can contact me through that. I have large followings on all my social media feeds, but they're basically been parked for a while.
Got it. And you have something coming out, don't you?
Maybe do I have something coming out?
Was it the meditation?
Oh yeah. So in about a month, you'll be able to Google laughter yoga meditation, and I'll be starting initially a couple free webinars based on how you can learn this 10-minute session that you can do each morning to like benefit yourself.
Beautiful. Slash, this was an incredible conversation. Thank you so much for sharing yourself, for sharing your gift. Through your story, it's just so evident that sometimes things happen that are just why, it makes you question, why is this happening to me right now? But look at where you are now and how many people you're helping through this gift that you obtained just from this, situation that you went through. It's pretty incredible. Thank you so much for being here.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Have a wonderful day, and I'll speak to you soon.
Okay, bye.